Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here for this reproducibility in Bordeaux. We would like to discuss with you grant and journal peer review and registered report founding. So first, a brief history on registered report. It started in the 90s at European Journal of Parapsychology, and they adopted a format similar to registered report that was piloted, and it helps to ensure the publication of negative results. And then in 1997, the Lancet launched an article type similar to stage 1 registered report. We are going to explain you what stage 1, stage 2 of this registered report consists to. And they also reviewed protocol proposed in the research program that they wanted to do. And these protocols are validated before starting the data collection. And then the journal Cortex adopted for the first time registered report format for publication. And since then, as you can see here, there is a rapid and exponential rise of this kind of format before publication. And it was adopted by many journals in many different fields. We would like first to present you the process of registered report about improving the efficiency of grant and journal peer review with registered report founding. So this is going to be about the large process of registered report, but also grant founding and how we can improve grant and journal peer review. At this stage, same, you can be rejected still, or you can have review to resubmit in stage 1 and then have an in-principle acceptance, meaning that the method you proposed is accepted and you can barely not change it. Then researcher conducts the study, so that's the part of data collection, following the protocol you submitted at stage 1 and that was validated. And then at stage 2 journal, you have the data collected based on this protocol, and you cannot be rejected. You can have only revision of the data collected, and then you got accepted, and this allows to be sure that the data you collected with this registered report will be published, even if the results are negative. And I think this is a huge gap in science, that we think negative results are not cool, are not groundbreaking, but actually it helps a lot when you are trying to answer a question and, okay, you know, this is not working, so you are not going to put all your time into that. So that's quite cool. And so we wanted to focus a little bit more on the reviewing process, because we found this article on how we can improve the peer review process. And actually, this can be done for a classical journal submission, let's say, but also for registered report and then article submission and grants, actually, you're right. And in this paper, they did a survey on many researchers, almost 5,000 researchers, and among them, 78% think that peer review is still the best way to allocate research found, but half of them think that it lacks transparency and objectivity. So I think this would be a main point to discuss at the end of this presentation, because we are really interested into it and we would like your feedbacks. And also, more than half of the researchers started that they would more likely accept the request of reviewing if founders recognize their effort, either by a thank you note or by being acknowledged in the founder reviewer list. So this is also a second point that we would like to discuss at the end and have your point of view on that. So now that I introduced a little bit the concept, I'm going to let the mic to Eloïse, that is going to present you many ways that can improve peer review.
So as Claudia say, we are brainstorming actually on the question that is how to improve a peer review system. And I took the example of grant funding and the review system of the Dutch Research Council, named NWO, and the guideline for reviewing. So this is just the application timeline to give you like an idea of how your application is treated. So first, you can have a pre-selection if there is a large number of application. This is not if this is optional. Then your application is being peer-reviewed by external referees that are expert and independent advisor. And they assess your application, and they submit some advice and criticism, and then you can enter it in the rebuttal to the referee, so you can enter the advice and criticism that they make, and then you have, if you're selected, you have an interview or a site visit if you're selected at this point. And then what I want to focus on is the assessment by the selection committee, because in the NWO, they have like let's say, they have a code for dealing with personal interest that I find very interesting in the spectrum of reviewing. So what is it? So I show you a little video to explain what is it.
Betrokken bij de beoordeling van kredietaanvragen, dan kan een van de volgende situaties je bekend voorkomen. Je hebt 2,5 jaar geleden samen met iemand een wetenschappelijk artikel gepubliceerd. En je co-auteur is nu subsidieaanvrager en jij zit in de beoordelingscommissie. Of je werkt op dezelfde afdeling als een aanvrager, maar aan verschillende projecten. Of een familielid neemt deel aan een consortium dat een subsidieaanvraag doet. Dit soort situaties vragen om alertheid. Is er sprake van persoonlijk belang? Dit mag er nooit toe leiden dat er schijn van vooringenomenheid ontstaat. Als dit nog is gebeurd, kan een herbeoordeling nodig zijn. Of het hele beoordelingsproces mogelijk opnieuw. Of zijn de gevolgen zelfs groter. NWO en ZonFB staan voor het hoogste niveau van zorgvuldigheid, integriteit en transparantie. Daarvoor hebben we de code omgang met persoonlijke belang. Deze code geldt voor iedereen die een rol speelt in het beoordelingsproces. Je meldt een persoonlijk belang en stelt zelf een beheersmaatregel voor. Als standaard beheersmaatregel neem je niet deel aan het beoordelingsproces van een aanvraag waarbij je een persoonlijk belang hebt. Daarom valt bijvoorbeeld pre-advisering, raadslaging of prioritering over de desbetreffende aanvraag. De commissievoorzitter bekijkt het overzicht van gemelde belangen en voorgestelde beheersmaatregelen. Dan stelt hij of zij aan de commissie voor hoe om te gaan met deze belangen. De commissie kiest vervolgens een aanpak, eventueel met aanvullende maatregelen, zoals uitbreiding van de commissie of het toevoegen van een neutrale waarneming. De commissie verantwoordt deze aanpak aan het bestuur in haar advies over de persoonlijke belangen en beheersmaatregelen vast, volledig transparant. Zo waarborgen we kwaliteit en integriteit. Het vervullen van onze publieke taak, het financieren van kwalitatief hoogstaand onderzoek, optimaal. Samen gaan we op de juiste manier om met persoonlijke belangen. Bekijk de code en de toelichting op www.nwo.nl/code.
Okay, so as you may understood, the code for dealing with personal interest is made to avoid some decision bias and that can be induced by personal interest in the jury's member. So for that, they're regarding personal interest or investing personal interest in jury's member. So it includes private, so friendship between the jury's member or and the applicant. It can be a professional bias, so shared publication with the applicant. It can be also being in the same political party or non-related work activities. It can be also a business, so if you start a company with the participants or with the applicant, or a person that you know in some company that where the applicant is involved. And so they're evaluating all of this personal interest. And so they're evaluating more precisely the nature, the degree of the personal interest. They also take into account the size of the committee, because the smallest is the committee, the highest you can have juries with personal interest with the applicant. So they're evaluating all of this, and then they're putting some standard committee control measure in order to prevent a participant with a personal interest affecting the assessment of the candidature. So if you have, if you are involved in personal interest, you should not, for example, provide advice to the applicant. You have no part in assessment of the application or deliberation, and you are not deciding the priority of application, for example. And there are also additional committee control measures. So you can add a natural observer to the committee, or you can increase the number of the committee members if there are too small committee numbers. Or you can split the committee to sub-committee. So for example, if you have some jury member that are of personal interest with the applicant, you can do a subcommittee. So other people of the committee evaluating one application and the other one another one. And so this committee is managed by a chairperson and a secretary, and they're reviewing all the process. And in order to avoid decision-making bias, as I said. And so the advising members take part or not in the commission and control measure. They're discussing the code with all the people in the committee, and they're warning and assess if any jury's member have personal bias. So this is very important. And then after all these steps, the NWO make a decision based on the committee at the end, and so you can have or not the grant at the end of the process. So this is an interesting, thing, like the code of dealing with personal interest, things to add in reviewing. And so we would like to discuss of what to think of this code during the reviewing process, and other questions like the possible retractation as stage 1 or stage 2 during the reviewing process, the anonymity of reviewers, because they are not anonymous, then the fact that applicant can suggest also reviewers, and so the NW reviewer system. So let's open the discussion.